Hello everyone, welcome to this episode of Think Peace Astrology, and today I will be discussing an important natal aspect for relationships. So I decided to discuss this because apparently another one of TJ Holmes' mistresses confessed to having an affair with him when she was looking to him for mentorship, and this happened years ago. And I'm seeing a lot of similarities between him and Martell. So for those of you who don't know, TJ Holmes is a television journalist who was recently caught up in a scandal involving his married co-worker, Amy Robach. And at the time, TJ was married to his second wife, and he has a history of infidelity in both of his marriages. So ever since TJ and Amy were put on blast for having extramarital affairs, several former co-workers of his revealed that they had affairs with TJ as well, which is not surprising to me because most times men who cheat on their wives have multiple side pieces, or at the very least, they've done so before, which is why I tell side pieces like Arionne that their job is to make it easier for the married man to stay with his wife. Sometimes married men do get caught up and they leave their wives for the mistress, but usually the married man wants to hold on to his family while having some fun on the side. So I wanted to take a look at TJ's natal chart, and he was born on August 19th, 1977 in West Memphis, Arkansas. I don't have his birth time, so I'm going to focus on the planetary aspects that he has, okay? It is possible that, like Martell, TJ Holmes has a moon in Libra square Venus in Cancer, which from my experience is the aspect for people who are perpetually dissatisfied in their relationships. In astrology, the square aspect represents lessons, obstacles, and challenges, and also difficulties with integrating the energies that are represented by the planets involved in the square. In TJ's case, he has an air moon and a water Venus. Air signs are logical, objective, and emotionally detached. They're also extroverted, and they focus on cultivating social relationships that are usually superficial in nature. On the other hand, water signs are usually emotional, reactive, and introverted, with a focus on cultivating nurturing familial relationships with loved ones, okay? So in astrology, the moon represents the mother, the family, home, feelings, and emotional connections, our reactions, and even our cultural conditioning. While Venus represents femininity, the people, places, and things that we value, our romantic desires, and the methods that we use to create harmony and balance in our environment and relationships. The moon and Venus are both feminine planets, but the moon represents maternal love and Venus represents romantic love. Now, maternal love is usually self-sacrificing, unconditional, and asexual unless the mother is emotionally or psychologically damaged, okay? Venusian love, on the other hand, is usually more selfish, self-serving, and based on practical needs and matters. Unless it's in a sign of exaltation, Pisces, or the opposite sign, Virgo. And Pisces and Virgo are the signs of the martyr and the spiritual ascetic. So when there's a clash between the moon and Venus, it means that someone's emotional disposition does not align with their value system. In other words, what makes a person feel safe, secure, and nurtured makes it difficult to hold on to or maintain the things that they value. This is like somebody who will cheat on you because you love them, rather than the opposite, right? Like Martell cheating on Melody because he thought she loved him unconditionally like a mother, which is the moon, instead of conditionally like a wife, which is Venus, okay? So natives with the moon square Venus aspect have a difficult time sacrificing their desire for pleasure to protect the emotional integrity of their relationships. So what makes them feel good is most valuable to them. If you're married to or dating a person with this aspect, they may love bomb you in the beginning of your relationship because you make them feel good at the time. And the sex is usually on point because you just met each other and there's a lot of chemistry between you guys. But as soon as the lust wears off and the relationship settles into a more practical routine schedule, the emotional attraction also wanes because the moon square Venus person begins to associate their romantic partner with their mother, or at the very least, emotional security. Mothers usually have a deeper emotional connection with their children than wives do. And I remember when Mike Tyson said that many men want a woman to love them the way their mother does. They want a woman who will die for them and love them unconditionally, no matter how badly he treats her. Now, Mike Tyson is a Cancer, and his mother emotionally neglected him. So I'm not particularly surprised that he feels this way, but a lot of men share these same sentiments. Okay, anyway, so one of TJ's mistresses recently came out and said that after a few months, their relationship just fizzled, which is very common in Moon Square Venus relationships. While Venus's energy is steadier, the moon's energy fluctuates frequently because not only does the moon change signs every 2.5 days, it also has 8 different phases and eclipses. The moon's cycle affects the menstrual cycle of women, and it is partially responsible for the frequent mood changes experienced by women. I think it is important to note that the moon has like a 28-day cycle, Venus has a 28-day cycle for each sign, and Saturn has a 28-year cycle. And this is one of the reasons why I think that Saturn is also a feminine planet. But I'm going to discuss that sometime in the future. So anyway, the people with the Moon Square Venus aspect have a difficult time balancing their emotional needs with their desires, unless the moon is in an earth sign like Virgo or Taurus, which is a sign of exaltation because it is fixed earth. So Moon Square Venus people aren't necessarily looking for one-night stands. They do want an emotional connection with their romantic partner, but once things become too consistent or predictable, they tend to get bored and look for sexual thrills outside of their relationship. This is one of the friends with benefits aspects, in my opinion. People who have a steady rotation of former lovers to entertain them once they get tired of their current relationship, because like the moon cycle, what's old becomes new again. Women with this aspect express the energies differently because, again, the moon and Venus are feminine. Usually, women with this aspect, by the way, women and men with this aspect are usually very attractive, which makes it easier for them to find suitable partners. They become emotionally insecure when they have an emotional connection with their partners because from their experience with their mother or just their childhood in general, they learn that their emotional needs will not be met. So Arionne has this aspect in her chart as well. I think she has Moon in Scorpio, Square Venus in Leo. Women with this aspect learn that being emotionally attached to the things that they value can lead to heartache and disappointment. It's like wanting something that you can never have, and what happens is that these women start to contradict themselves by sabotaging emotional relationships that they value by reacting and responding in a way that destroys the integrity of that relationship. So this can manifest as like cheating or emotional abuse or pushing a person away, right? So that they don't get too attached. And this is one of the reasons why I believe Arionne kept saying negative things about Martell, but ended up having a baby with him anyway. So women with this aspect feel like they don't deserve to have someone who sacrifices their happiness for them. So when they're younger, they tend to gravitate towards cheaters, abusers, or married men who are emotionally unavailable. Some astrologists have linked this aspect to NPD or BPD disorders for reasons that I will not touch on today. But to sum this up, okay? People with the Moon Square Venus aspects in their chart have to learn how to value their own feelings in order to value the feelings of others. Emotional empathy is severely lacking here because, again, these people may have been raised by parents who invalidated or dismissed their experiences, their feelings, and this could happen if the parent was more so concerned with keeping up appearances for other people, or they were more concerned about their own emotional needs instead of their child's. So for those of you who watch Love and Marriage Huntsville, you can see how Martell's mother dismisses or brushes off some of Martell's unpleasant emotional experiences from his childhood. She kind of, moves it to the side and talks about how great, wonderful things are right now. Sometimes parents avoid dealing with negative emotional experiences because they don't have the capacity, the knowledge, or even the desire to address the issues that their child is facing because they can't fix it, right? So, for example, if Martell was bullied for being very poor, there was nothing his mother could do about it at the time. She couldn't resolve that issue overnight. So Martell may have felt the need to dismiss his own feelings to protect his mother from feeling frustrated, ashamed, or even angry. Arionne kind of grew up in a similar situation where her father was not in the home. So I think that, and I'm not sure if this is true, but I heard somewhere that Arionne is a product of an extramarital affair, or her father chose to marry someone who was not her mother. So she was not able to live in the same household as her father, which definitely had an emotional and psychological effect on her too. At some point, Arionne probably wished her father and her mother were together, but she was perpetually disappointed because he was already with somebody else. So she may have learned at a young age that wanting her father in her life or valuing someone on an emotional level can lead to disappointment, which conditioned her to accept emotional neglect and disappointment from Martell. Martell had been lying to Arionne for years, and subconsciously she may have felt like she deserved that treatment because remember, the moon represents the subconscious mind and the sun governs the conscious mind to varying degrees based on whether or not it's a day chart or a night chart. So anyway, at a young age, Arionne learned that another woman or person is more valuable than her needs, right? Her father's wife and family was more important to him than she was and what she needed as a child. So like Martell, Arionne's father pretty much forfeited his relationship with his daughter to maintain his relationship with his wife, okay? Martell dismissed and ignored Arionne's needs for emotional security to maintain his marriage to Melody. Martell and Arionne's relationship is based on a toxic shadow bond where both people are uncomfortable being vulnerable or emotionally dependent on the other person, so they do things to sabotage their connection with each other. All right, back to Amy and TJ. They're going to stick together, in my opinion, for a little while, longer than his usual flings because of the controversy surrounding their relationship, and there are several self-note aspects between them. So this is a past life connection that is meant to teach them the meaning of unconditional love, or they're learning how to have empathy for other people's feelings by valuing their own. So if they develop a deep emotional connection with each other, they will begin to value the other person to the point where they'll learn how to value their own feelings. That is, if they want to, because this can be very scary and difficult to do. They will have to fight the urge to run when things get challenging or too predictable. So I tell my clients that, the attraction that we have for a partner is meant to teach us certain lessons about ourselves. So we're usually attracted to people who are here to reflect our own attitudes and behaviors. If you're not attracted to someone on an emotional or physical level, then a lot of times you won't care about how they feel about you, right? This is why a lot of toxic relationships like with Christian Rock and Blueface are very hard to walk away from because the way that Blueface treats Christian Rock is a reflection of how she feels about herself, okay? She does not mind him beating up on her because she beats up on herself a lot. I think Christian is a Pisces and Saturn is entering Pisces in a couple of months. She is going to have to face the karmic consequences of engaging in this type of toxic, abusive relationship. And I think that her child, if she chooses to have a child, will teach her important lessons about self-love, okay? And hopefully it will, the baby will compel her to leave this very dysfunctional, abusive relationship. So back to TJ. Yes, he's a womanizer in my opinion. He's a player, and it's evidenced not just by his natal chart, but he has a documented history of womanizing and cheating in all his relationships. He seems messy and unfazed by the negative attention, almost as if he's enjoying it. Uranus is squaring his sun right now, so more than likely he's having a midlife crisis, as many people do at his age. In my opinion, it is in poor taste and it's tacky to be grinning and cheesing for the cameras with your new boyfriend or your new girlfriend while your ex-partners are still reeling and your children are still reeling from the collapse of their families. And this is what I meant about the lack of empathy with this aspect. It's like TJ and Amy don't really care about their exes because they undervalue or overvalue their own sexual desires over their familial relationships, okay? So as long as they're sexually attracted to their partners, they value them. It's kind of like what happened with Martell and Melody. Martell started to devalue Melody when she stopped pleasing him or stopped submitting to him sexually as frequently as she used to before she had their 3 babies. Martell started cheating with Arionne before Melody got pregnant with Sugar Mama. I think he was cheating on her while she was still pregnant with Boss Baby. Okay, so yeah, after the sex between Martell and Melody waned, Martell did not value Melody as much. and he started to have a sexual and emotional affair with Arionne. This is the selfishness of Venus that values pleasure over devotion, which is the moon. The moon is devoted to her child, to her family. She sacrifices her desires and her wants and her needs for the well-being of her children. Okay, this is often the case. So the desires of Venus interfered with Martell's ability to maintain strong emotional bonds with his wife and family, the same way that TJ and Amy's relationships superseded what was morally right. Okay, in the same breath, right, Arionne's lust trumped her concern for Melody and Martell's family and his marriage. So even though Arionne said she loved Martell, she did not love him enough to leave him alone. And yes, Martell was stalking her and harassing her, but she did not have to give in to him, right? However, a part of her wanted him to chase her to prove how much he loved her. So that was a part of the game. So yeah, Moon Square Venus people value individuals who they're sexually attracted to. So if they're not getting their needs met on that front, you don't really mean much to them as a relationship partner. So Martell did not care about Melody as his wife, the mother of his children, and his business partner. She meant less to him because Arionne was making his penis hard. So whoever satisfied Martell sexually was more valuable to him, right? He forged an emotional connection based on sex. I remember last year or a couple years ago, somebody on Instagram said that Martell was whack because he fell in love with a girl because she sucked his dick. I laughed my behind off for several days after that because, and I'm serious too. She said, "You're whack," or something like that. You fell in love with a woman because she sucked your penis, basically. When I read that, I was crying. I'm sorry. Anyway, but that's pretty much the nuts and bolts of it. If you make me feel good, then sexually anyway, if you make me feel good sexually, then you're more valuable to me than somebody who's the mother of my children, my business partner, my best friend, and so on, okay? So yeah, whoever gave Martell the better sex or more sex meant more to him at that particular moment. And this is why Martell could not differentiate between Melody and Arionne when Dr. Francis gave him the oranges analogy. Martell basically said that he likes Melody's oranges and Arionne's oranges. So both of them have been reduced to whoever gave Martell immediate sexual gratification, right? Martell and TJ use sex as a metric to evaluate the worthiness of their partners. And again, they use the quality of sex as a metric to evaluate the worthiness of their partners. And again, this is the reason why I said there's a difference between maternal love and romantic love. Some people with Moon Square Venus usually cannot tolerate predictable routine relationships. They live for the rush and the high and the emotional thrill of a new romance because they enjoy drama. And in astrology, dating and casual romance is in the 5th house of fun and creativity, while marriage is in the 7th house of open enemies and competition. Moon Square Venus people feel valuable based on their sexual prowess or their physical attractiveness. And these people are usually very attractive, so they have lots of suitors, which makes them value this aspect of their identities more than other well-rounded people who have more to offer besides their looks, right? And this is why Arionne kept calling herself a baddie, and Martell spent more time picking out his suits than preparing his speeches for his businesses. So let me think, have I ever dated a man with Moon Square Venus? I think I have, and he was a mess. So one of the red flags I ignored with him was that he was friends with all his exes. Now, I'm not saying that you're supposed to hate your exes, but he would speak to these women like frequently as if they're the best of friends. Now, not all Moon Square Venus people are like this, but many of them have a difficult time regulating their emotions because their value systems aren't strong or they're amoral. Venus is the lower octave of Neptune, which represents our morals, beliefs, and value systems. Basically the superego and what we're willing to sacrifice ourselves for. So your morals are based on the things that you value. And if your values or principles or morals are messed up, then your interactions with people are going to reflect that. So if you don't value yourself, which is Venus, then you're not going to have a healthy emotional relationship with other people, which is the moon. So in summary, if you're dating someone with this aspect, please do not blame yourself for their behavior. It has nothing to do with you, okay? They usually get bored with everybody or most people, or they get bored with people who are sane and stable and consistent. So they may step out on you even while they try to maintain a relationship with you for emotional security. People with Moon Square Venus, especially if there's a fire sign in this aspect, they like relationships that are constantly changing phases, like the moon. This is constant drama, arguments for no reason, breakup to makeup, dysfunction, all that stuff. So sometimes these people cheat or push you away on purpose for you to chase after them so that they can feel more important in your life. If you guys remember in season 2, Melody said that she left Martell because she wanted to get out of the toxic cycle of breaking up to make up, which Martell seemed to thrive in. He even admitted to Dr. Francis that he enjoyed the 2 women fighting over him, no matter how painful it was for Melody and Arionne. He didn't care about that. All he cared about was getting his emotional and sexual needs met. So, alright guys, I'm leaving it there. If you want to order your own personal astrology or tarot reading, you can go to my website and complete the order entry form and then submit payment via CashApp or Stripe. Later this week, I'm going to discuss love after lockup, and next week I'll resume reviewing Real Housewives of Potomac. I've been watching a lot of episodes from the past several seasons to get an idea of what's going on with the cast. Also, I'm going to post the monthly tarot readings for all signs tomorrow on Patreon. Unfortunately, for the past few weeks, since the beginning of the month, I've been working on a project, a huge project that has nothing to do with this platform, so I'm behind on some things. Alright guys, I look forward to reading your feedback. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will speak to you soon.